Yo, what's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy, Kevin Forte, and guys, we are trying it again. The first two nights, we had some issues with these game reviews. I apologize for that, absolutely. This is not the way I wanted to start things off, but guys, we are going into day 3, and we are going to have success here tonight. I feel it. I know it's going to happen tonight, so let's go, baby. Guys, we got a full slate already. It's a Thursday night. In the first week of the NHL season, we have 9 games to go over, so we'll be going over all those games. Let's get right into it. So we're going to start off with some of the earlier games, the 7 o'clock games. We had a game out in Columbus. The Arizona Coyotes heading out to Columbus. Two teams that are probably going to be at the bottom of their division, which I had projected in my division rankings. But Arizona coming into town, you knew this was going to be an emotional night for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Obviously, Matiss Kivlenieks, everything that happened with him this summer, him passing away on 4th of July. They had a ceremony raising his number 80 to the banners into the rafters for this season. Just a class act there by the Blue Jackets. Really good stuff. And you can see right off the bat, it was very emotional in Columbus. I was not in Columbus tonight, but I could feel that emotion and energy coming from that building. Just really a great thing for the Blue Jackets. I mean, obviously what happened to Kivlenieks is obviously a tragedy in any way you could make of it. But the way the Blue Jackets have handled it, the way the team handled it on the ice, really impressive. And it didn't take long. It took 40 seconds for their first goal of the season. It was Texier getting on the board. You saw Bjorkstrand get on the board. That's a power play goal at the end of the period. A tip-in. You had 2 tip-in goals. 2-0 Jackets at the end of the first. Jenner, the new captain of the Blue Jackets, he would get a goal as well. A wrist shot. Again, very early in that second period. 35 seconds. So the Coyotes kind of struggling to start periods. They gave up a goal in each of the first minute of the first and the second period. That's a no-no for success during the regular season. It just gets it's just bad. Not even, I guess it takes away any momentum that you could have from the intermission time. It all goes away when you give up that early goal in the period. And that's what happened twice in this game. Anton Forsberg would cut the lead to 3-1, a slap shot from the point. Merzlikins probably wishes he had that one back, but that's part of it. Bjorkstrand would score again. Jake Bean would score. So now it's 5-1 Blue Jackets going into the third period. You're seeing some depth scoring from the Jackets. Werenski would get one on the power play. It's 6-1. Max Domi, who had absolutely a great game. He had a goal and 2 assists. Probably could have had a hat trick in this game. He had some really good opportunities. A 3-point night for Domi. You also see Mike Sillinger's son, Cole Sillinger, who was drafted this summer. First round pick of the Blue Jackets. And he picks up his first NHL point. So congratulations to Cole Sillinger. And just like that, it's a 7-1 game. Clayton Keller would get one on the board on the power play for the Coyotes at the end of regulation. Again, in the final 5 minutes, making it 7-2. And Gustav Nyquist would put this thing away in the final 2 minutes of regulation. An 8-2 lead for the Blue Jackets. That's all she wrote. Oliver Bjorkstrand had an absolutely monster game. He had 2 goals. He had 2 assists. A 4-point night for Bjorkstrand. Elvis Merzlikins also held up really well. He made 36 saves on 38 shots. A really impressive night there for Merzlikins. And Max Domi, like I mentioned, he had a goal and 2 assists. He honestly could have had 5 points tonight. He was really on fire for the Blue Jackets. That's all I have to say. It ends up being an 8-2 game. Max Domi was hot. They definitely fed off that early energy. The Coyotes did have a pretty decent second period, but again, they just weren't able to keep up with the Coyotes. They had alternatives off the ice, and that really seemed to be the difference in this game, and it kind of got out of hand in the third period. Carter Hutton did not play well either. I expect him to have somewhat of a better performance, but again, this is, he struggled toward the end of his career in Buffalo. Everybody said that would be a bad signing. Didn't end up being a great signing in Buffalo, and now we're seeing him struggle in Arizona right off the bat. But again, it is still early for the Coyotes, but I don't think this is anything Coyotes fans were completely shocked. It's 8-2, the final, but man, a lot of emotion in that game. So staying on the East Coast, guys, we're heading down to Florida as the Florida Panthers, who a lot of people have as a Stanley Cup favorite, take on the Pittsburgh Penguins, who just did pretty well in Tampa Bay in opening night. Going down to Tampa, they're raising the Stanley Cup banner for 2021, and Pittsburgh went in there and played a very solid game, and you saw some of those defensemen like John Marino, Chris Letang playing really well, and I think, the Penguins are hoping to ride that momentum into this game, and for the most part, they really did. They had a pretty solid game, and they kind of let this one slip. And it's one of those games where you gave yourself a chance, but you just came up short. And at the end of the day, first things first, I was watching some of this, and they don't have the arena name on the ice for the Florida Panthers. I know they just had a name change, but it was weird seeing just the circle. That was like an NHL game thing, and then the logo's in the middle with no name on the outside of the ring. That was quite odd, but whatever, that's part of it. The Florida Panthers were very good early. A lot of pressure from the Panthers, and they end up going 1-0. They got a goal pretty much halfway in the first period. Carter Verhaeghe, a tip-in goal, makes it 1-0 for the Florida Panthers. And they gave the Penguins a run for their money. 12 shots to 9 at the end of the first period. A pretty solid period overall for the Florida Panthers. The second period would start off pretty similar for the Panthers. Anthony Duclair getting a goal for the Florida Panthers. A nice little goal there. But then the momentum started to shift. And again, you're seeing, some of the top guys play really well for the Panthers. It was a little bit interesting seeing Bobrovsky start. I'm not sure what happened during training camp, but it sounds like Quenneville likes what he saw from Bobrovsky. He gets the opening night start over Spencer Knight. So that's something to keep an eye on as the season goes along, to maybe see if that shifts as we move along. But again, that top line of, who was it, Barkov, Verhaeghe, and Sam Reinhart, they played really well. I heard a lot of their name during the broadcast. That's the kind of stuff the Panthers need. That is a very efficient and cheap first line in the NHL. I don't mean cheap in sense of like a bad product. They are just, for what they're worth, their value is way more than what they're actually being paid. And Barkov, congratulations on that new contract. But then we started to see the momentum shift. Like I said, Danton Heinen would get his second of the season just a little over halfway into the second period, and Jeff Carter would get one by the end of the second period. So we have a tie game and 2 power play goals for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and we're tied at 2. And then the third period, you see it continue for the Pittsburgh Penguins. They get 2 goals within 30 seconds of each other. Jake Gensel, thank God he's back for the Penguins. At least they have one of their big scoring threats back. Jake Gensel gets a goal, a nice wrist shot. Then Evan Rodriguez, his second of the season. Again, 30 seconds later on the dot. So now all of a sudden it was a 2-2 game, or 2-0 game for the Florida Panthers for that matter. And next thing you know, they're down 4-2. So showing that maybe the Pittsburgh Penguins, maybe it's some credit to the Pittsburgh Penguins just being able to find ways to score goals. And I think that was really impressive. And you look at some of the guys scoring. Evan Rodriguez and Danton Heinen, they're not in the top 6. I think that was really impressive to see some of those guys getting on the board and putting up big goals for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And then the third period kind of shifted back toward the Florida Panthers. Aaron Ekblad, within a 2-minute span, picks up his first and second goals of this season. A slap shot and then a backhander that was just a really sweet, clean-looking goal. Ties the game back up at 4, and it sends us to overtime. And in overtime, Carter Verhaeghe, his second of the game, his second of the season, from Barkov and Weegar. Quite fitting, right? Makes a lot of sense. Just almost halfway into the overtime session, Carter Verhaeghe wins it for the Florida Panthers. A game that they kind of let slip from them when they were up 2-0. Give Pittsburgh a lot of credit. They were very resilient, come back, take the lead, a 4-2 lead, but ultimately come up short, giving up 2 goals by Ekblad later in the third period. Casey DeSmith did not play his best tonight, but again, there was a lot of shots back and forth. 47 shots for the Pittsburgh Penguins compared to the Florida Panthers, 39. So just a lot of back and forth for both sides. Aaron Ekblad got the first star of the game with his 2 goals to make the comeback possible. And obviously Verhaeghe with the first goal of the game and the game winner gets the second star. Jeff Carter also had a pretty good game as well tonight. Goaltending was not on, put on the best display. I would assume Spencer Knight gets their next start. But again, that's something we still have to wait and see. The Florida Panthers play Saturday against the New York Islanders, who we're going to talk about them in a second. But that was a big game for the Florida Panthers just to get their feet out from under them. I think that was really an impressive game. And for the Pittsburgh Penguins, hey, you know what? Honestly, I just made a video, kind of like a hit piece video on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Is the era over? Sidney Crosby's out of lineup. Malkin's out of lineup. Oh, yeah. Jake Guentzel missing the opening night roster. Where would Pittsburgh sit? Through the first 2 games, they go down to the Sunrise State. They get 2 points from the Tampa Bay Lightning on banner-raising night. And they also have to go to the home opener of the Florida Panthers. And they also pick up a point in that game after being down 2-0 in the first period. Again, they did have a 4-2 lead in this game, and they blew that in the third period. So that's something you can hang your hat on and say, man, we really gave away a point in this game. But at the end of the day, coming away with 3 out of a possible 4 points, not too bad for the Penguins. Again, without Crosby and Malkin. Make sure to watch the Penguins here in the first half of the season. It's going to be very interesting to see how that works out. So we're staying on the East Coast for this one as we have the Dallas Stars helping the Rangers open up the Garden at MSG. The New York Rangers' first home game with some of their new faces in the lineup. And there was definitely a lot of cheering for certain players in the lineup, and we'll get to that. But the Dallas Stars had a pretty solid start to this game. And this kind of seems like a game similar to what the Rangers had last night against the Washington Capitals, at least early on. A game where maybe the Rangers just weren't, the best team early. They weren't skating well. They really weren't playing their game. They gave up a goal late in the first period, a backhander from Peterson, Jacob Peterson. He got his first goal of the season, makes it 1-0. So Dallas, good news there for the Stars. They're seeing some depth scoring. And then right away to start the second period, a power play goal for the Dallas Stars from Radek Faksa, a guy that I've been, when is he going to become that legitimate goal-scoring third-line center that can also play really good defensively? We're starting to see some production here early from Radek Faksa, so you're seeing some bottom-six scoring from the Dallas Stars. It wasn't from the top guys during regulation. It was guys like Faksa and Peterson giving the Stars a 2-0 lead in the second period. Adam Fox would get his first goal of the season. The first goal of the Rangers at MSG here for this season. A big goal for the Rangers. Gave them some life. And then later in the period, Chris Kreider, already his second goal of the season. A tip-in goal. Quite fitting for Chris Kreider. And all of a sudden, the Rangers, after that Fox goal, got a lot of momentum. And they had come back and really played a solid game after giving up those 2 goals. Ryan Reeves was interesting in this game. Every time Ryan Reeves hit somebody into the boards, even if it was just a light little touch into the boards, the fans were going nuts. Ryan Reeves, he's only played 2 games for the Rangers. He's already become a fan favorite there in the Big Apple. He's handling the big city life quite well, I think, and I think he's enjoying all the attention as well. So that's the good news for the Rangers, and that's kind of where it stops because it was a pretty quiet third period overall. There was kind of, exchanges back and forth. There was 20 shots in that period, 19 shots. 8 shots for the Stars, 11 for the Rangers. 33 shots for the Rangers overall, 26 for the Stars. A lot of shooting going on. It was a pretty big shooting gallery. The Rangers were much more disciplined tonight. I know that was an issue last night against the Washington Capitals. Sammy Blais had three penalties on his own. They played a different game in that regard than last night. Again, it's improvement, right? They had 6 penalties last night. They only have 3, so they cut that in half. That's great. Cut it into thirds, right? They cut it into a third, which is great. They only took 2 penalties, but they still gave up a power play goal. And the bigger issue now is the Rangers were 0 for 4 on the power play. Now, I know it's not easy to score on the power play, but this isn't Tampa Bay or, for even that matter, a team like Florida or Colorado. It's the Dallas Stars, and you go 0 for 4 on opening night. That is slightly concerning for the Rangers because they were not able to score on the power play, and that does make a difference. So that's the kind of stuff, if you're a Rangers fan, you should be a little bit nervous about. Miro Heiskanen gets the overtime winner just before the 2-minute mark into overtime, a snapshot coming in. And Shesterkin didn't play his best game either. Braden Holtby got the start here for the Dallas Stars. Heiskanen gets the first star of the game. Fox gets the second. And Braden Holtby gets the third star. Holtby was 31 for 33. So that's not terrible, right? But definitely need to see improvement here from the Rangers, because this is the kind of stuff where you kind of, again, had the Rangers shown up in the first period, and even if they made it if it was 1-0, well, they did keep it 1-0, but just they came out so slow. If they didn't, they were the better team watching this game, but they just didn't play half the game. And unfortunately, Dallas, when it comes to overtime, that's kind of what happens. It was an odd man rush, and they got caught, and that was it. And Miro Heiskanen ends up getting the game winner. So, again, the Rangers, it's frustrating because it's the way they lost their first 2 games. The good news, the Rangers pick up a point here. They have something to build off of at least. But last night, I was saying the same thing. Listen, they have something to build off of. They come back home to MSG for opening night tomorrow night, which was tonight. And not that they laid a complete goose egg, because they did score some goals, but the lack of power play and the slow starts now, it's been creating a lack of momentum in the first half of that game, and they're finding themselves trying to come back in games. They were able to do that against Dallas, but you saw last night against Washington, against the really good teams, you're not going to be able to come back in those games and even give yourself a chance in overtime like you did tonight. So I want to give some credit to the Dallas Stars. Hope he did play well tonight. You saw some depth scoring, but definitely not great for the Rangers. They lose this one 3-2 in overtime, so they start the season 0-1-1. Talking about slow start, man, my New York Islanders, guys, it wasn't a pretty one for the New York Islanders. Give Carolina credit. They played a great game. I'll talk about what I really think from this game, but the Islanders get a goal. They get the first goal of this game, surprisingly. It was 1-0 Islanders. Matt Barzal, 2 minutes had been playing, and then they decide, you know what? Matt Barzal, after review, did put that in. That he did score that goal. Now, the Carolina Hurricane announcers were actually saying that didn't go in. What do you they're going to take this back. It's not a goal. There's no need to review. Well, they end up calling it a goal. The Islanders did score that goal. Matt Barzal's first of the season. The first goal of the Islanders, so obviously it had to be interesting. So the goal gets called back. They get the goal, and they also have to add, I think it was 2.5 minutes back on the clock at that point, because that's how much time had run off. So think about, this is one of the things in the NHL that they need to fix, because 2 minutes had elapsed, 2.5 minutes, right? What if Carolina had scored another goal? Or, for that matter, what if the Islanders scored another goal? Does the Islanders' other goal get nullified or void? How does that work? I'm waiting to see that situation unfold, because I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. But, yeah, interesting start. Andrei Svetnikov had a great game tonight. Everybody was saying, is he going to maybe slow down, this season because he's got the big ticket contract and maybe he's not as motivated. That wasn't the case tonight. Andrei Svetnikov had 2 goals tonight. A really impressive game for him. You saw some guys getting points for the Rangers, for the They are former Rangers. You saw some points for the Hurricanes you maybe weren't expecting to see. Tony DeAngelo had 2 assists tonight. Niederreiter got a goal. Jordan Martinook, Jesper Foss got a goal. Really just good stuff there for the Hurricanes. They were up 2-1 in this game going into the second period. The Islanders came back a little bit, made it 2-2. Martinook scored 3-2. Niederreiter got a weird goal. They kind of had to, have a little discussion in front of the penalty box. The officials called a goal. 4-2. The Islanders lost the challenge, which hurt their momentum even more. But their captain, Anders Lee, gets on the board a deflection, a wrist shot. I apologize, a wrist shot. And the Islanders were really kind of barking at the door. They were very, very close at the end of that second period to tying this game at 4. And this probably would have changed the momentum of that entire third period had the Islanders come back and scored that goal. But it ends up not happening. Carolina adds 2 more in the third period. An empty netter from Svetnikov, a power play goal from Teravainen. And the Hurricanes win this one 6-3. It was an ugly game for the Islanders. Just too many shots given up. I really don't think the Hurricanes played that well tonight. They did what they had to do. They were able to, dictate this game on their terms. They were 2 for 5 on the power play. Not bad for the Hurricanes. 41 shots on the Islanders. That doesn't happen very much. A really good start here for the Hurricanes. I just don't know if the Islanders were ready for this game. They didn't really look like it. And Barry Trotz will probably be pretty animated in the post-game press conference because his team just did not play the Islander way. They go 0 for 3 on the power play. The Islanders only had won 44.8% of the faceoffs compared to the Hurricanes over 55%. That doesn't seem like that big of a margin, but it's almost a 10% margin between the two. There's a big gap between. And that is a little bit concerning for the Islanders, who have, who most people would consider is a good center core with Casey Cizikas, Pajot, Nelson, and Barzell. They should be winning more faceoffs than that. So, yeah, not a great game for the Islanders. Freddie Anderson played his first game as a Hurricane during the regular season. He looked pretty comfortable. He looked pretty good. And again, that's maybe a testament to the Hurricanes' defense or the Islanders just not generating enough to make him uncomfortable. Sorokin did have a slow start tonight. But guys, you remember what happened last season when the Islanders played the Rangers opening night at the Garden. Sorokin got pulled and he played awful, right? Now, again, that was a little bit of a different circumstance. Oh, but it really wasn't because Varlamov was hurt to start this season, maybe when it wasn't expected to be. So, listen, the Islanders, they have a chance. This is one of those things. It's one game. You don't freak out one way or the other. I think that's really what it comes down to for the New York Islanders. Guys, I have to admit, watching some of this game, it did remind me of the 2019 second round series between the Islanders and the Hurricanes, where the Islanders swept the Islanders. I definitely had some flashbacks to that, and they were not good. Definitely not. But the Hurricanes, give them credit. They pounded the Islanders in tonight. The Islanders did not play the way they typically play. Again, giving up 41 shots is a pretty indicative example of that being shown off. We're going to kind of pick things up a little bit. We still got 5 games to talk about. This other game might be over already between Vegas and LA by the time I'm done talking. We got Montreal going up to Buffalo. Now, here's the context. Buffalo obviously naming their starter today, Craig Anderson, and the Montreal Canadiens just re-signing Nick Suzuki. They just came off a loss against Toronto in a game they probably could have won. And then they go to Buffalo, and I don't know. I really don't know what to say right now because the Montreal Canadiens, this is not good. Again, it's only 2 games in, but these were 2 divisional opponents. And you may look at Buffalo and say, well, who cares? It's the Buffalo Sabres, but those are the games you should be winning. There's no excuse for that. And give Buffalo credit. Buffalo came in, and they were ready to go. And we saw a lot of depth scoring from the Buffalo Sabres. We saw Jeff Skinner and Jacob Bryson getting 2 assists for each of them. 2 guys that, nobody's really been talking about, especially Jeff Skinner. probably more been talked about for the wrong reasons. And their power play was electric. 3 for 6 on the power play for the Buffalo Sabres. Now, is that maybe the Habs defense not being that good and Samuel Montembeault maybe not being the best for the Habs? Doesn't really matter. The Sabres were able to execute. When have we been able to say the Buffalo Sabres executing, scoring goals, depth scoring on the power play at will, getting assists and points for, some depth guys on your roster? Kyle Opposo getting the first goal of the season for the Sabres? I mean, that's probably not what you were thinking going into this game, but they were able to get it done. Kyle Opposo with a goal. Gergensen's with a goal. Again, Opposo, power play goal. He's still playing on the power play. Chris Weidman would get one for the Habs. That was as close as it got, though, ever since it was 0-0, 2-1. And then Victor Olofsson on the power play, just a snipe from the top of the slot. I rewatched that goal. I'm like, was that Ovechkin or Laine? No, that was Victor Olofsson. Wow. A lot of poise and just stepped right into his shot and just fired it right past Samuel Montembeault. Really, really an impressive game for Olofsson. Anders Bjork got a goal as well at the end of the second period. And Tage Thompson got a goal on the power play in the third period. And a 5-1 victory for the Buffalo Sabres. Kyle Opposo, the first star of the game. I love seeing that. Great stuff. Gergensen's the second star. And guys, this is even better. Craig Anderson, the third star of the game. There were 31 shots for the Habs tonight. So Anderson stopped 30 of 31. Not too bad. 36 shots total for the Sabres. Again, pretty impressive. And the most glaring thing was they were 3 for 6 on the power play. Really good stuff there for the Sabres. For the Habs side of things, this is a little bit concerning. I mean, they played quite well to start that game against the Toronto Maple Leafs, like I was just talking about with them a couple minutes ago. But I will be talking about with them in a couple minutes. But Montreal they didn't have it tonight. That goal from Opposo, and then it kind of just snowballed from there, and they really never got that momentum back. And give the Buffalo Sabres credit, man. I love what Don Granato has done, and in night one of their season, pretty impressive. And they limited this Habs offense. I mean, the Habs went 0 for 4 on the power play. We're talking about teams struggling on the power play here early. Teams like the Rangers and the Montreal Canadiens, not good stuff. And that's not a really winning formula when you're not scoring on the power play. And we see that here. 2 perfect examples right next to each other. So, that's that one. Who would have thought? The Buffalo Sabres are undefeated after their first game. But still, they're undefeated, guys. And now we're going to head to a game out in Ontario. The Battle of Ontario between your Toronto Maple Leafs heading out to Ottawa. They had a big win the other night. They had to grit one out against the Montreal Canadiens, a 2-1 victory at home to start their season. And the second of that back-to-back was not going to be easy, because now you got to go down to Ottawa, who has had a lot of distractions that could have given them an excuse to maybe not play their best. But they didn't do that. The Ottawa Senators came to play in their opening night game at the Canadian Tire Center. And listen, I think we saw some real good stuff from this group. And I think when you look at where the Habs have come, we saw this team take more leaps forward this offseason. Really good stuff here for the Sens. Brady Tkachuk is re-signed. Great stuff there. But this is a team, man, that I'm excited to see what the Ottawa Senators do. They had a strong start to this game. Again, this is now the second game in a row that the Leafs here to start the season have struggled in their opening, that first period, the first frame of the game. And then again, like I mentioned with the Rangers, a team that's just, not playing well to start the game, you find yourself having to chase the rest of the game, and it becomes way more difficult to win a game when you're constantly chasing, especially in the first 2 opening nights of the season. Well, the first 2 games of the season, you're already doing that, not a great habit to get into. Chris Tierney, Tyler Ennis, and Alexander Formenton get goals in that first period. A power play goal from Ennis, and it's 3-0, so Ennis gets his little bit of revenge there on the Leafs, a team he has played with in the past. No goals in the second period. I apologize for that. But again, the Leafs with their slow starts going down 3-0, you're asking for a lot. And now you didn't get anything in the second period, so now you're down 3-0 going into the third period. That's going to be difficult. But they gave themselves a chance. 2 power play goals in that third period to make it 3-1 and 3-2. Jason Spezza, his first of the season, and William Nylander, his second of the season, both on the power play, making it 3-2 game. They gave themselves a chance. They gave themselves over 10 minutes of time left. I think it was 11 minutes and 10 seconds left in regulation to score a goal to tie that game. They couldn't get it done, though. And DJ Smith's Ottawa Senators win their opening night game at the Canadian Tire Center. Anton Forsberg, the first star of the game, on 48 shots. He stops 46 of 48. A really solid game. Really solid debut to the season for Forsberg. Really interesting to see Matt Murray not start this game. But man, I think the Ottawa Senators, if Anton Forsberg ends up being the starter here, this may be where things kind of fall off for Matt Murray. He may not even get a chance this year, depending on how a guy like Anton Forsberg does, especially early on in the season. So keep an eye on that as the season goes along. Because I hate to say, we have really seen that Matt Murray just hasn't been a fit there. So anyway, continuing with the Leafs. The Leafs were 2 for 5 on the power play. Just not good enough. Like I said, they gave themselves a chance with 2 power play goals in the third. But the Sens hold off. DJ Smith and the Ottawa Senators, despite re-signing Brady Tkachuk this morning, he did not play in this game. And that was huge for the Ottawa Senators, that they were still able to play and not let that distract them and find a way. They had every excuse in the world to say, we're not going to show up, whatever. It's opening night, doesn't matter. No, they showed up and they beat a pretty damn good Maple Leafs team. So very impressive here for the Senators. A lot of doubters out there, maybe including myself. Whoops. Great job there by the Sens, proving me and many other people wrong here, at the very least, for the first game of the season. I mean, where the fuck do I really even start? This game, what happened? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to, before you watch this, maybe watch some of the highlights of the Tampa Bay and Detroit Red Wings game up in Detroit tonight, or last night, depending on when you're watching this. I'm not really sure what was going on. This game was crazy. Now, I'm going to be at fault here. As this game went along in the third period, I did shut it off, and I didn't see the comeback. I did see the goal in overtime, but I didn't see the comeback that led to that overtime, and I'm ashamed of myself because I know hockey, and here I am, and we'll get to it. So the Detroit Red Wings, opening night at Little Caesars Arena with all their pizza. Opening night, and the Red Wings look pretty dominant and pretty energetic to start this game. They go up 3-0 in this game, and a goal from Larkin, their captain, and then 2 goals from Tyler Bertuzzi. Tyler Bertuzzi had himself a night. You're going to hear his name a lot today. Andre Palat, though, would get a goal to make it 3-1 for Tampa. Tyler Bertuzzi would come right back, get the hat trick on the power play, making it 4-1 Detroit. Stamkos would get 2 goals to end that second period, his first and second of the season, both on the power play, both slap shots, right in his wheelhouse, right in his kitchen, right on the top of that, or right in that middle part of the slot. That Stammer spot, and he slams some home. Stammer the hammer, and there you go. It's now a 1-goal game going into the third period. But hold on. Hold on. So a 3-0 lead gets erased. The Red Wings still hold on to their lead. And then Tyler Bertuzzi's fourth of the game and a former Tampa Bay Lightning, Vlad Nemesnikov, just a couple of minutes later. We're almost halfway into the third period, and it's 6-3 Detroit. The fans are going nuts. They are going to beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. Man, the Red Wings are rebuilding. Even the announcers for Detroit, they're probably eating their crow right now for that. So it's 6-3. I turn off the game, and what happens? Ross Colton gets his first of the season with 6 minutes left in regulation. A couple minutes later, Nikita Kucherov on the power play, a slap shot, and it's 6-5. And that wouldn't be it, because a little over a minute later, Alex Killorn gets his second of the season from Victor Hedman. Hedman's already got 4 assists on the season. Jesus. And we are tied at 6. Going into overtime. And Andre Palat gets the big goal. And Andre Palat, second of the game, second of the season. And this ends up being the game winner. And the Tampa Bay Lightning win this game in Detroit in overtime. Now, I don't know where I should give more credit here. The Detroit Red Wings for going up by 2 times, going up 3 goals on the Tampa Bay Lightning? Or do I give credit for Tampa for coming back from being down 3 goals, 3-0 and 6-3, and coming back from both of those deficits and ultimately winning this game in overtime on the road in Detroit's opening night game? I'm going to give credit to Tampa Bay here, and maybe credit to Detroit because they somehow blew both of those 3-goal leads. Yeah, I don't know what happened here with the Detroit Red Wings. Not a great game. Hey, listen, you know what? Give credit to Tyler Bertuzzi. He went off tonight. He probably could have had 10 goals tonight. He really played well for the Red Wings. But you look at the shot clock, 48 shots for the Tampa Bay Lightning compared to the 26 for the Red Wings. They almost doubled the Red Wings in shots. So give some credit here to the young Alex Nedelkovich, who played his first game as a Detroit Red Wing in his Red Wings debut. He went 41 for 48, which actually pretty good considering the situation that he was in. But this is the growing pains of Detroit this year. And when you're in a rebuild, you have young guys coming in. This is the kind of stuff you're going to see. You're going to have your ebbs and your flows. And that's kind of what ended up happening. Give credit to Tampa Bay's power play. Again, Stamkos got 2 of those goals, so he's going to take a lot of the credit. But Tampa went 3 for 7 on the power play tonight. Really solid game for them. And that's it. Really frustrating loss here for the Red Wings. And I think they took their foot off the gas twice tonight. They had this game. They had their foot on the Tampa Bay Lightning's throat. And they decided to step off and let them come back. And, yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say about that. I don't think Red Wings fans want to hear any more about this. I'm sure that my Lightning fans would love to hear more, but definitely some things going on there. You got to love seeing Stamkos get 2 goals there on the power play in his kitchen. But Vasi didn't play his best either. I do want to mention that. He was not at his best tonight. That's to be expected, but still not a great game for Vasi by any means. All right, so this is kind of a big game, kind of a historical game, and that's actually the color of the room today, and that's that teal color of the Seattle Kraken. Guys, the Seattle Kraken play their second NHL game tonight in Nashville, the home of the Nashville Predators, and a pretty good start for the Kraken. You saw in Vegas, they seemed to get a little rattled, especially in that first period. All the pregame festivities may have had a little bit of an impact on the Kraken. They're not going to tell you that happened, but it was pretty evident on the ice that may have been the case, at least early on. But the Kraken were ready to go in another pretty hostile environment in the NHL. Two pretty tough road games to start your franchise in Vegas and Nashville. But they handled it pretty well, especially tonight. They were very focused early in this game. At the end of the first period, they actually outshot the Nashville Predators 12-4. Pretty impressive there. You look at the depth scoring that you saw from the Kraken in this game. Tolvanen got the first goal. You would have thought, oh, here we go. The Kraken are going to get rattled. That wasn't the case. They actually played quite well, and they came back, and they scored 2 goals. Jared McCann, second of the season. Brandon Tanev, both of those on the power play for the Seattle Kraken. Pretty solid stuff, and it's 2-1 Seattle. So after getting a little rattled there early, they come back, and they're resilient, and they take the lead. Roman Josi would get a goal, the captain, on the power play, tying it at 2. But Alexander Wenberg would get a depth goal there. Pretty interesting. Pretty interesting to see that. For some reason, they have Alex Barré-Boulet in Seattle. I don't remember that trade happening. So, okay. But anyway, I think they meant to put Jonas Donskoy for that. But it was a wrist shot, and Seattle regains their lead. Brandon Tanev would score a goal. His second of the game, it was a missed shot off the boards for the empty net. He ends up getting the puck bounced to him in front. A good puck battle in the boards, right to Tanev. He puts it in for the empty netter. A pretty easy empty netter, but you never know. It's crazier things have happened. They go up 4-2. Granlund keeps it interesting, keeping the Preds fans in their seats until the end. Granlund would score 1, but it was too little too late. And the Nashville Predators lose 4-3. But more importantly, the Seattle Kraken win their first NHL game. Congratulations to the Seattle Kraken fans. And of course, to the Seattle Kraken team as well. A very exciting moment there for the Seattle Kraken. Their power play was 2 for 2 tonight. Pretty solid there. And they scored pretty important goals there at the end of that first period. They were both in that first period, and they took advantage of it. The face-off totals, I don't know really what was going on with the Kraken's center core. We know that may have been a problem going into the year. They only won 44.3% of their face-offs. It was over an 11-point gap between them and Nashville on the face-offs tonight. I'm not really sure what was going on there. Again, I think it's just lack of skill down the middle that will come back to bite you. But Nashville put together a pretty good third period in general. They outshot the Seattle Kraken 13-1 in that third period, but ultimately come up short. That's really what it comes down to. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many shots you have. It's how many goals you have that go past that goaltender in the back of the net. And they did that less times than their opponent in the Seattle Kraken. Like I mentioned, first NHL win for the Seattle Kraken. They start their season 1-1-0 in probably 2 of the top 5 most hostile environments in the NHL. Pretty good for the Seattle Kraken. I think once they got over that little bit of frazzlement in the first game against Vegas, I just made that word up. Ever since that game, they've looked really confident and poised, and that defense stepping up, trying to create some offense with the defense because they know it's lacking on their forward depth, especially in the bottom 6. Really good stuff to see from the Kraken. And again, Nashville has some stuff to build off of. They did well in the face-off circle. They were 1 for 2 on the power play. But at the end of the day, they just came up short and were not able to execute at the level that the Kraken were able to. And that means that's going to take us to our final game of the night. And it's gotten more ugly since I posted here. So, yikes, and it's only getting worse. So the Vegas Golden Knights were up 1-0 in this game. Shea Theodore got the first goal of the game, but ever since then, 5 unanswered goals by the Los Angeles Kings. Dustin Brown, Anze Kopitar, Philip Deneau, Kopitar second of the game, and Drew Doughty. Who are the key names here and why? What is their significance? It's because these are their top players on the ice. Doughty, Kopitar, Deneau, Brown. Those are all important pieces of this team, and I think Dustin Brown and Kopitar are the most important because they want to see those guys put up points. It's 5-1 right now in LA as I speak. It's probably could get worse by the end of it. It was a pretty back and forth first period. Shots were 13-18 in favor of the LA Kings. We saw a fight as well. Brendan Lemieux dropping the gloves with Keegan Kolesar. Pretty cool to see that. So good. Got some good West Coast hockey, some fighting, some fisticuffs. As well as a lot of scoring. And like I mentioned, the big boys getting on the board, like Brown, Kopitar, Doughty, Deneau. Those are all guys, maybe the questions going into the season where, yeah, they could play good defensively. They could forecheck well, back check. But can they score goals? And I think we're seeing that right now from the LA Kings. And gotta like what you see so far. And you look at their power play, pretty impressive. They're 2 for 2 on the power play, are the LA Kings. Gotta like what you've seen so far. Deneau and Arvidsson are playing a surreal amount of hockey through the first 2 periods of this game, going into the third. They've been playing a lot for the LA Kings. And yes, I did not forget about Vladimir Kachev, as a lot of you like to call him. I did forget him in my videos talking about the LA Kings, so I had to mention him here. He looked pretty solid as well for the LA Kings, so I'm pretty excited to see how he does in this system with this group. Kachev already has 2 assists in this game. It's only a matter of time before he gets that first NHL goal. So guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What do you think of the first night of real serious action? We had 9 games on tap tonight in day 3 of the NHL season. And it's only going to get more crazy this weekend. We have a couple of pretty big matchups. So guys, make sure to stay tuned the rest of this weekend going into next week as we go over these game recaps. Guys, make sure to stay tuned either in the morning after or the night of. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL and more videos just like this one, guys, as always, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and an even bigger subscribe down below. Guys, I will see you again next time.